The elegant clothing store was bustling with high-profile customers and tourists, browsing the luxurious displays of designer suits and dresses. Among them, a man with a calm demeanor and unassuming presence quietly admired a sleek black leather jacket hanging on a polished oak rack. He gently traced his fingers over the fine stitching, as if appreciating the craftsmanship. "Hey, careful with that!" A loud, abrasive voice shattered the peaceful moment. A sharply dressed manager, his face twisted with irritation, marched over, his shoes clacking on the marble floor. "You can't afford that, buddy. Hands off." The man slowly turned, his kind eyes meeting the manager's cold, judgmental glare. Unfazed, he gave a small smile. "I was just admiring it. It's a beautiful piece." The manager scoffed loudly, drawing the attention of a few curious shoppers. "Yeah, well, admiration doesn't pay the bills. This is a high-end store, not some thrift shop. Guys like you don't belong here. Go drool over cheap jackets somewhere else." A couple browsing nearby glanced over, their eyebrows raised in surprise. The man gave a polite nod and took a step back, clearly not wanting to cause a scene. But the manager wasn't done humiliating him. "Seriously, do you even know how much that jacket costs?" the manager sneered, crossing his arms. "Or did you just wander in here to pretend you're somebody important? Don't waste our time." A young sales associate standing behind the counter hesitated, glancing nervously at the unfolding situation. She recognized the man and knew exactly who he was, but fear of the manager's wrath kept her silent. She could feel the tension mounting, and her hands trembled as she folded a silk scarf. The man gave a slight nod and moved to leave, but just as he reached the door, a voice called out from behind him. "Excuse me, sir." It was a well-dressed customer, holding a phone in one hand and squinting as if recognizing him. "Aren't you?" The manager scoffed again before the customer could finish. "Oh, please, don't get fooled by his look. Some people just dress decently to sneak into places like this. Total frauds." A small crowd was forming, intrigued by the commotion. The man remained composed, though a hint of sadness flashed in his eyes. He was clearly no stranger to judgment, and it wasn't the first time he'd been underestimated. The young sales associate bit her lip, debating whether to intervene or stay quiet. But then, another customer whispered something to her friend, pointing discreetly at the man. The murmurs grew, curiosity rippling through the store. The manager, still oblivious to the shift in atmosphere, rolled his eyes and barked at the man once more. "Take your act somewhere else, all right? This isn't a place for freeloaders." The man gave a final, gentle smile, and with one last glance at the jacket, he nodded respectfully to the manager and walked out the door. Little did the manager know, his worst nightmare was just beginning. The manager smirked with satisfaction, proud of himself for keeping the riff-raff out of his store. He adjusted his tie and turned to the sales associate, barking orders. "Clean up that display and make sure nothing's out of place. I don't want any more vagrants messing up the store's reputation." The young associate hesitated, her eyes still on the door where the man had left. She wanted to say something, but knew better than to cross the manager. As she quietly fixed the display, a commotion erupted outside. Curious, she peeked through the large glass windows and froze in shock. A sleek black SUV had pulled up at the entrance, and a group of men in dark suits stepped out. They moved with purpose, scanning the area before one of them opened the car door with practiced precision. The same man who had just been humiliated stepped out, calm and composed as ever. Only now, his presence felt entirely different. People on the sidewalk stopped to stare, and a few pulled out their phones, whispering excitedly. The manager, noticing the gathering crowd outside, frowned and moved toward the entrance to see what was going on. As he pushed the door open, he nearly collided with one of the suited men, who gave him a cold, professional glance. "What's going on here?" the manager snapped, annoyed. "You people can't just block my entrance like this." The suited man barely acknowledged him, instead speaking into an earpiece. "Yes, sir. Everything's secure. We'll proceed as planned. Confused and frustrated, the manager looked back at the man who had been humiliated earlier. His heart sank when he noticed the way people were gathering around him, eagerly trying to take selfies, or at least catch a glimpse. That's when it hit him. The familiar face, the unmistakable presence, the reason people were reacting like they'd seen a legend. That can't be. Is that Keanu Reeves? The manager mumbled under his breath, his face paling as reality smacked him like a tidal wave. Before he could fully process it, one of the suited men approached him. "Mr. Reeves would like to have a word with you." The manager's mouth went dry, and his legs felt like jelly. In disbelief, he took a hesitant step forward, forcing a nervous smile as Keanu turned his calm, piercing gaze toward him. "Sir, I didn't know," the manager stammered, his confidence from earlier crumbling to dust. Keanu gave a gentle, forgiving smile, but his eyes held a depth that made the manager feel even smaller. "You didn't know who I was," Keanu said softly. "But that doesn't matter. You didn't need to know. You should treat everyone with respect, regardless of who they are." The manager swallowed hard, his mind racing to find words. But Keanu continued, his tone gentle but firm. "No one should be judged by their appearance. You never know who might walk through that door. Everyone deserves kindness." People around them nodded, murmuring in agreement. The young sales associate, witnessing the scene, felt a surge of pride for Keanu's graceful response. The manager could only stare at the ground, utterly humiliated and at a loss for words. Just then, one of the suited men handed Keanu the same leather jacket he had admired earlier. "We'll take this one," Keanu said with a smile, giving the associate a warm nod. She managed a grateful, relieved smile in return, still processing the unbelievable turn of events. As Keanu turned to leave, he paused and glanced back at the manager, his voice carrying both wisdom and compassion. "Next time, treat people with kindness. You'll find it makes the world a better place." The manager barely nodded, too ashamed to speak, while the crowd murmured with admiration and respect for Keanu's humble but powerful message. As the SUV pulled away, the store remained in stunned silence. The young sales associate couldn't help but smile, feeling inspired by how gracefully Keanu handled the situation. She glanced at the manager, who still looked shell-shocked, his face pale and sweaty. Customers who had witnessed the entire scene whispered among themselves, some recording the aftermath on their phones. Desperate to salvage his dignity, the manager straightened his tie and barked at the associate. "Stop gawking and get back to work," he snapped, though his voice lacked its usual authority. She bit her lip to hide her smirk, silently grateful that someone had finally put him in his place. Moments later, the store phone rang, and the manager hurried to pick it up, hoping it wasn't a complaint. "Thank you for calling Prestige Apparel. This is Michael speaking. How can I assist you?" The voice on the other end was calm, but carried an unmistakable weight. "This is Simon Hayes, CEO of Prestige Apparel. I need to speak to you immediately." The manager's face went pale as he struggled to respond. Yes, sir. How can I help you?" "I just received a call from Mr. Keanu Reeves," the CEO said, his tone sharp and unmistakably disappointed. "He personally informed me about the way he was treated at your store. I am beyond appalled. Do you realize the gravity of what you've done?" Michael's hands trembled as he struggled to form a coherent response. "Sir, I didn't know it was him. I mean, it doesn't matter who he was," the CEO interrupted, his voice rising. "You treated a customer with complete disrespect. Our brand is built on quality and class, not arrogance and judgment. You've single-handedly tarnished our reputation in front of one of the world's most respected public figures." The manager opened his mouth to defend himself, but no words came out. He could almost feel the walls closing in on him as he struggled to breathe. "There's more," the CEO continued. "Mr. Reeves was kind enough to not press charges for public humiliation or defamation. But that doesn't change the fact that you humiliated one of our most high-profile customers. Effective immediately, you are suspended while we conduct a full investigation." Michael's heart sank as the line went dead. His legs wobbled, and he had to grip the counter for support. He looked around the store, noticing the eyes of his employees and customers still glued to him, some clearly enjoying his downfall. One of the regular customers, an older gentleman who had always been treated poorly by the manager, couldn't help but chuckle. "Karma's a real thing, son," he muttered, shaking his head with a wry smile. The young associate approached cautiously, unsure of how to react. For the first time, she saw a vulnerability in the manager that made him seem almost human. But sympathy was hard to come by after everything he had put them through. Defeated and humiliated, Michael slowly walked to the back office, closing the door behind him as he buried his face in his hands. He never imagined that his arrogance and lack of respect would cost him everything in just one afternoon. A few days later, the story of the clothing store incident had gone viral. Social media was flooded with videos of Keanu's calm and humble reaction to the manager's outburst, with countless people praising his grace under pressure. The hashtag #BeLikeKeanu started trending, encouraging people to practice kindness and humility, no matter the situation. Prestige Apparel's reputation took a massive hit as thousands of negative reviews poured in online, condemning the way Keanu Reeves had been treated. The store's sales plummeted, and its social media pages were bombarded with backlash. The CEO released a public apology, expressing deep regret for the incident and promising to uphold better standards of customer service. One evening, as the young sales associate was closing up the store, she heard a gentle knock on the glass door. She glanced up and froze in disbelief. Keanu Reeves was standing outside with a kind smile on his face. Hastily unlocking the door, she let him in, her heart pounding with excitement. "I just wanted to check in on you," Keanu said softly. "I know things got a little heated the other day." The girl couldn't help but smile at his thoughtfulness. "Honestly, you did everyone a favor." The manager, well, he had it coming for a long time. Keanu nodded, his eyes reflecting understanding. Sometimes people let power get to their heads. It's important to remember that respect is something you earn, not demand. Before leaving, Keanu handed her a small envelope. Confused, she opened it and found a handwritten note and a generous check inside. The note read, "Thank you for your kindness and for treating me like a human being rather than a celebrity. Use this to make your dreams come true. You deserve it. Keanu." Tears filled her eyes as she looked up to thank him, but Keanu was already walking away, blending into the evening crowd. The girl held the note close to her heart, feeling a renewed sense of hope and motivation. The next morning, news broke that Michael, the disgraced manager, had officially been fired after an internal investigation confirmed his long history of mistreating both staff and customers. The store underwent a complete overhaul, with a new manager appointed who was known for his respectful and uplifting attitude. The story became a powerful reminder to never judge others based on appearances and to treat everyone with dignity and respect. And as the online world continued to share Keanu's humble and forgiving response, people couldn't help but feel inspired to lead with kindness, just as he did.